everybody to our presentation today. As Lana mentioned, I'm Mark Piscadlo, I'm the Director of Sales for AVDS. We're really pleased to be able to offer you this webinar. And really what it's about is how to better understand your customers. So 3 questions to consider. First of all, what if you could know that, what if you could know what both your employees and your customers are saying? What if you could tune into the emotion of every conversation? And most importantly, what if you could get closer to your customers? That's really what we're here to talk about today. And with that in mind, I'm going to turn it over to Brett. So Brett, if you're there, why don't we go ahead and jump into the presentation, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate it. And as a perfect opening to kind of what we want to focus on today. You guys, happy to be here. You guys, let me get my screen is. Why is my screen not? There we go. Maybe it's just a little slow, guys. I had a little lag. So if the audio hopefully comes through fine, hopefully I won't have a lag on here. But today we kind of want to talk about, what is conversation analytics and really how to deliver value to organizations. How are our customers getting value from that today? We will jump in and do a quick demo and leave plenty of time at the end for Q&A. So real briefly, one quick slide to understand who Call Journey is. We are a global conversation analytics company. We are not a technology company as much as we are a solutions company, right? Our whole goal is to help businesses solve business problems and improve process. So we are headquartered in Australia. I am located in Southern California. Our primary focus is the North American market. We also have offices in the UK serving the European market. So, what does Call Journey do? Like I said, we call conversation analytics, also known as speech analytics or referred to as voice analytics. And this slide here kind of gives you an overview. We take the audio sources that come, and if you're, for example, on a Genesis platform, we're going to grab that audio of the recorded conversation between the agent and the customer. And we take those conversations and we process it through our engine to do the speech to text transcription. But in addition to that, if you guys look at box 3, I think what's important to understand is that we also do what we call emotional intelligence. And that is, we score every word and every utterance for both sentiment and for emotion to give it an emotional score. So what that means is we look at the words. Maybe if you say the word, happy, obviously have a score as a positive sentiment, but you combine it with the word not in front of it, and now also it's a negative sentiment. But we also have an acoustic algorithm that listens to things like pitch and tone and volume and the changes in those categories to understand really not only what was being said, but how it was being said. And that's really important as you get into the use cases and how we deliver value. One of the things that we do, if you look at box number 4, one of the things that we do that's really unique, that separates us, is that we can deliver the data wherever it is needed. We have a platform called Wordbench, what I'll give you a demo of today, which kind of is our instant analytics to break down and look at those calls that are processed. But we can also deliver that data into other BI or analytics platforms, such as, SAS or Microsoft Power BI or eMite. So most of our customers have other analytic tools they're already looking at, and we can pipe all that voice data into that as well. The other thing I will want to mention that, we have some customers that say, listen, I don't have a call center. Well, that's certainly not a problem. We are source agnostic. So as long as you have recorded audio, wherever it comes from, we can process that. So those customers who don't have a call center, we can certainly offer the same value. So for those guys who do and happen to be on a Genesis platform, just a quick slide to show our relationship there. We are a global speech analytics partner for Genesis, and today we have integrations into Pure Cloud and Pure Connect. And for Pure Connect, both cloud and on-premise, options are available. So one of the things that I hear, sometimes is people will ask is, how relevant is, our phone conversations today with all the multi-channel and customer inputs, how often is phone still being used? And the answer is predominantly. I was actually at a Genesis G Summit last week up in San Francisco, and Genesis Global Chief of Marketing had a slide up. He said that for complex issues, customers still preferred phone interaction 51% of the time. And so that is a wealth of valuable data that's residing about your customers. So where does conversation analytics, deliver value? And how are people using it today? And my hope today for those of you on the webinar is to understand a little bit more about conversation analytics and really understand what's possible and how it might benefit your organization. I'm not going to go through this whole slide, folks, but I think if you guys look at the topics, those green bars on the top, you understand who in the organization is really getting value out of the conversation analytics. Traditionally, most speech analytics providers focus in the contact center, in the call center world. And what we're finding is that there's so much value outside of that as well. Folks like marketing, obviously folks in customer experience, products, strategy, certainly risk management. These are all areas and all use cases where we're providing value to our customers today. But I think probably the most relevant one is to talk about what are our current customers doing with voice. I think by far the number one most common use case we see today is they have a need to automate their QA and compliance process, right? And so I'm going to drill down into a few of these a little bit more. We also see a lot of requests and value being driven through improving agent performance, whether that's CX or sales, improving retention and conversion rates, understanding the customer journey, and certainly driving NPS performance. So I'm going to drill into a couple of these, give you some examples of how our customers use it today, and then we'll jump into a demo. And by the way, if you guys have any questions throughout the presentation today, certainly put those in there. We'll leave plenty of time for QA at the end, but feel free to log any questions you may have. So the question is, does your QA process need improvement? And I am forever surprised when I hear the stories from our customers about and our prospect about their current QA process. And by and large, what we're seeing is that on average, less than 1% of the recorded conversations are actually listened to for a compliance or QA perspective, less than 1%. And almost all of that is very, very manual. I don't know how your processes are, but we're seeing this is our number one use case of why customers come and want to use Call Journey. So if you could take your QA coverage from less than 2 or 1% to 100%, what would that mean for your business, right? Removing that manual review. I had a customer last week who was telling me that their QA process was they had their call center managers, they came in on the weekend and spent time on the weekend to listen to the calls. That's the only time they could do that. And so you can remove that manual review, give instant insight to 100% of your calls, like Mark had mentioned. Talking about, just the eliminating the risks associated with those industries that have regulatory compliance issues, right? You can automate now 100% of your calls. So now you can actually spot check, and I'll show you that when we do the demo. But certainly that is a key use case where our customers are driving value today. The other one is, what about, is voice your omni-channel blind spot? You'll see there's a slide in here that talks that, the number one concern most businesses have is understanding or improving customer experience. And most of those companies have what I'm call a voice of the customer initiative. So they're really trying to understand the voice of the customer. And they're using all these different CX channels like, managing or understanding NPS, tracking the customer effort, what is their churn and lapse rates. all these things they're trying to do to improve their CX. And so some of the data points that they're trying to get from, they're looking at CRM data, they're looking at chat, social media, certainly email, even spending a lot of time on post-call surveys, right? And so our answer is, well, you guys are missing the most important piece. Why don't you actually listen to the voice of the customer, right? It's the most logical thing. And the reason that they haven't been, because historically, speech analytics was hard to get to and it was expensive. Well, Call Journey has changed all of that. And so for those people who really want to drive, customer experience, voice analytics or conversation analytics is certainly providing that. The other one use case we see, guys, is understanding, that customer experience and reducing your churn rates. I mean, how happy are your customers, right? Really. And if you understand, reducing, we'd be able to reduce churn rates for some of our customers by up to 15% by allowing them to understand what's really happening in those customer conversations. So if you need your team to maximize their upsell and cross-sell opportunities, improve those retention rates, if you guys really want to automate your script adherence and best practices, all those things are now available for automating through conversation analytics. I think you'll see that. And I think we talked about the slide a minute ago, but this was kind of a driving statistic for me, is that this is a #1 focus for so many businesses, and they're spending a lot of money trying to do this. And I think that if they understand the value of voice data, we're really able to help them drive that. So right now, guys, I want to go ahead and I'm going to jump into a demo, Workbench. Let's switch my screen. And while I'm getting set up, I'm probably spending about 15 minutes or so in this demo. I'm going to keep it at a fairly high level. And certainly if you have any questions, we can go back and address these. What we're looking at here is Workbench. This is our out-of-the-box analytics platform. It's a cloud-based platform. And we're looking here, guys, at the overview section. And keep in mind that most of the magic happens prior to this, right? It's our ability to take that audio and to process that very quickly and combine that with emotional intelligence. And we're seeing the output of that. I also want you guys to understand that everything that you're seeing today is delivered out of the box, but is also completely configurable and customizable based on your needs. So you can track and measure and view the things that are important to your business. This section right here is called the overview section. And this is giving me a rolling 30-day view of some things that I may want to track. I can look at things like call volume. And if I just hover over any of these days, I can actually see, how many calls came in on 5/13, how many calls came in on 5/14. If I click on any one of those days, all the relevant statistics populate here on the right side of the screen. So I can look at things like call duration, average calls per agent, average client or agent talk time, positive and negative emotion. I can also, from the overview section, look at things like call duration. Again, click on any particular day. I see the relevant statistics of those days right there. I can also look at things from the overview, such as agent or client emotion. So if I look at client emotion, I'll grab a day right here. I see that today we had, 51 calls recorded, as positive or negative. And there's 4 categories, guys, that we have right here for emotion. Was it positive? Was it improving? Was it worsening? Or was it negative? At any time, if I click on any of these data points anywhere here, it will automatically take me down below to the actual call file that I can drill in. And I'll show you that in just a moment. So this is kind of the overview section, right? And again, this is completely configurable based on the things that you guys want to see or track maybe on a daily basis. If I go down below, I'm going to refresh this data. I'll go ahead and refresh this real quick. And we'll see here that I'm now looking at, 1,500 calls that I have logged into this demo environment. These are all the actual call files. And I'm going to show you how we can do ad hoc searches to drill in, because the whole purpose of this is to find calls that may be of relevance or importance. So I can look at things like, the gender of the agent or the client. I can look at things like emotion of the agent and client, things like call duration, the amount of overtalk, the call silence, the clarity, the diarization. So I can search by all of those things. So for example, I'm now looking at 1,500 calls. Let's say I want to go and look at calls maybe only where the emotion was negative on the part of the client. I now see I have 459 calls that I can search. So I'm going to go and type in this search term here. I'm going to put not happy, but I'm not really sure if the customer said, hey, I'm not really happy, I'm not very happy. So I'm going to put this within a search term of 4 words of each other. So now, it is now taking those calls, is looking for the words not and happy within 4 words of each other, and I come up with 3 entries. And these 3 entries are listed right here, and I can see in a preview, customer here said, I'm not very happy. This customer said, I'm not happy. I can actually click on this call file. It will open up the actual call transcript. On the right, I can see the call details. I see that the call was 3 minutes and 46 seconds, the amount of silence, the amount of overtalk, all the metadata associated with that call is right there. And on the right, I actually get the actual transcript. Everything you see in green means that was scored as a positive emotion. Red is a negative. And the red words mean negative sentiment, green word positive sentiment. Now, I still don't want to have to read through 3 minutes and 46 minutes of 46 seconds of a transcript, so I can use these arrows, and it takes me right to the section of the call where my search terms are highlighted. I see right here it says, I'm not happy. I can actually, if I want to, I can actually listen to this call. I can actually click on it, actually hear the audio file for that, or I can also grab it and it creates a link just to that segment of the call if I want to send that to a supervisor or other team member. So that is one way that we can drill in from 1,500 calls quickly down to calls that may be of relevance. And I can search by keywords and so forth. Now, I think one of the most impressive things about the system and the smart way to really do searches is we call apps or applications. We deliver these out of the box. This one here is called Agent Performance. And again, they're all customizable, but an app is just a pre-configured set of criteria or search terms that our customers may want to go ahead and look at. For example, Agent Performance. We're tracking 5 things: communication skills, effectiveness, compliance, politeness, professionalism. So if I click on any one of these categories for any day, I see that professionalism shows me that we're looking for things like call control, the empathy, the commitment. Is the customer being valued? If I look at things like politeness, I see that we're tracking, did they close this properly according to our script? Did they give a proper greeting? Did they thank the client for holding? And again, if I go down, I want to look at this. I have a low score for thanking the client for holding. If I click on that, it will take me right down to the call files down below that make up that metrics. So this is an easy way to track our agent performance. And we also have kind of an agent scorecard down below where I list all my agents and I score them on those categories. Again, these are all configurable by you. And so if I want to rate these on their communication skills, I can quickly see the agents 94, 107, and 200 might need a little more training on their communication skills because they got low scores in that category. So this is agent performance. The other thing that we get, probably the most common question, folks, that I get is customers say, we want to know why our customers are calling in. Now, certainly they give, certain different wrap codes and so forth. In fact, we did a very large project for a big bank in Australia. And one of the outcomes of that was they discovered it wasn't to track this. They were trying to figure out why their NPS score was so low. So we came in and processed about 3 months of calls for them. And But one of the outcomes they found out was that 62% of the rep codes from the agents were actually wrong. So they say, hey, the customer called in about X, but go back and listen to the audio, we found out that was Y. So you can eliminate that by certainly running things through Call Journey. This app is called Call Drivers. Now this here is set up for 4 categories that this customer wanted: account services, technical support, ordering or billing. If I actually click on billing for any particular day, you'll see here's the categories. And did they call to check their balance, what have you? But here we see predominantly they call to explore about potential savings or to make a payment, or two of these 52 called actually called about a dispute. If I want to find out what the dispute was, or how the agent handled it, I click on it, takes me right down below. So I can very easily now put all my calls into the proper bucket based on the conversation of what they called about. And also a call may go into multiple buckets. So if I called in about technical support and then I had a billing question, ordering, it will put those into both buckets. So that is Call Driver. And another one that is used a lot by our customers is simply that is customer experience. So customer experience is tracking the customer effort. Is it negative or positive experience? Maybe the cancellation risk. So it's looking for all the key words and phrases through the conversation and scoring that. So if I look at example, negative experience, I'll say, well, why was this negative? Was this a complaint? Were there broken promises? Was there confusion? Was there profanity? Right? Apologies. Again, if I look at confusion, I can click on this box. Right down here, I had 5 calls today where the customer said, hey, I didn't understand what you said. I'm a bit confused. I don't understand. So we can drill in and understand what's going on in those conversations. So I'm going to catch my breath just for a second and let you guys understand these are these applications or apps that we deliver right out of the box. We also can do applications for compliance, and it is very easy for our customers to go in and configure these. And I'll show you that as a quick example. If I go up to my settings, if I have the ability and permissions, I can go into applications. I can select I'll do the agent performance, right? And if you recall earlier, this is the agent performance. I had 5 different skills here. Those skills, remember, communication, effectiveness, politeness, and so forth. If I go ahead and click on politeness, I now have the subcategories, and there's my greeting. I click on greeting. Here are all the words that we've put in pre-configured to say what constitutes a proper greeting. So if you have specific things that you need or want your agents to say, we can go ahead, we can simply delete the ones that are not applicable. I can add them in simply by typing them or upload a simple phrase or download a phrase to a text file. So it's very easy for me to build out an exact script. We have clients today who are, they say, we need our agents to give these 3 disclosures within the first 30 seconds of the call. If that doesn't happen, obviously, then we can go ahead and flag those calls so they know they go back and monitor that. We have other customers who have, they want to know, our customers are not allowed to say these things. If we hear these words, maybe in a financial service, they say the word guarantee or those things, it'll flag it. So now maybe supervisors can go back and look at those handful of calls where those words were said by the agent. We have customers who say anytime a customer asks a word, like maybe what is my interest rate, or they ask a certain question, it will get flagged, automatically follow up. So these are some things that you can do to completely automate and allow you to track, again, the data that's relevant to you. So guys, I'm going to go ahead and end that right there on the demo. Certainly, I'll leave this up in case during the QA there's any specific questions, we can go back to it. But again, this is designed to be a simple instant analytics on any of the calls that were processed to help make better business decisions. So if I now go back to my PowerPoint, I'll give that a refresh. So the question, guys, is what's possible with conversation analytics, and then what's next? So the next step, if you guys say, hey, how can conversation analytics help me? My recommendation is certainly talk to your AVDS representative. We're happy to schedule a discovery call with Call Journey and schedule a customized demo for you and your team. We can discuss a proof of concept if you guys would like to do that and provide you with an ROI analysis, certainly. And then moving forward, to what would, Call Journey, an AVDS solution look like in there? We have a couple of different deployments. One, and I'll talk about it just briefly, is analytics as a service. So, for example, we have customers who come to us and say, listen, I don't know that I'm ready to deploy conversation analytics ongoing all the time, but I would like you to come in and listen to our last 3 months of calls and help us understand why our NPS score was so low. That's an analytics as a service project. And we went in there and did that work, delivered that data, and then we moved on. And we gave great value for that. We also have customers who say, I would like to automate my QA process, right? We have our process, but we need to automate this so we can understand and manage our risk. So we would go in, sit with them, understand what things are requirements, and build out that process for them, and then run Call Journey to automate that. So we have also customers who came back in, and this was a really interesting story I'll share with you before we close. We had a customer, and they were in the insurance business, and they said, we want you guys to come in and help us understand who our best sales performers are here, so we can model what they're doing and replicate that with our other agents. So we came in, we analyzed a whole bunch of calls for them, and at first they said, okay, it looks like agent number 5 and agent number 10 are our top performers because they sold the most of these insurance policies. Let's replicate that. And then we said, well, hold on a minute. You guys are just taking the conversation data. Why don't we take that data, guys, now and plug that into your other analytics tool? And I believe that Microsoft Power BI, and they plugged it into that data. So now, when they actually did a deeper dive into the revenue, not just immediate sales, but the overall long-term sustainable revenue, what they found was those really weren't their top salespeople, because now they're combining the voice data with their CRM data, and they found that, wait a minute, a lot of those sales that happened within 3 months, those customers may have canceled, or they may reduce their policy, or there may have been friction going on with that sales process. And so a lot of those policies were now lessened or even canceled. Whereas if you go back and look at the sales data, maybe those agents number 10 and 11 who were not selling as much, but they were really selling, and they had much longer term value to the company. And that was the model that they wanted to replicate. So the point being, tremendous amount of value and insights by understanding what's going on in the voice data. And when you combine that with the other data, is really valuable. So those are some of the types of analytics as a service projects that we can provide. And of course, we can also come in and just set it up so that you guys continually have a process with Call Journey, a constant stream of constant conversation analytics to help your business. So guys, I'm going to go ahead and end it there. Mark, we will turn it back over. If there's any questions or so that we can answer, I'll be happy to do so.
Awesome. Great job, Brett. Certainly a lot of real interesting information there. Len, I'm just kind of curious, did anybody through chat ask any questions?
Right. Well, thank you so much, Brett. You did such an excellent job. We only had really one question that came up from a couple of people, and that is, can you give us any average time to implement? What's the deployment process look like on your end?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of it says, it depends on where the source of the audio is. So the standard answer is this: most of our customers get up and running in a day. And I say that because once we have the audio, right? It's easy. We process that. We use, almost all of our customers use our out-of-the-box application to set up, to get started. And then once they get going, then they start to fine-tune that over time. But we can get them up and running in a day. If they are in a Genesis environment, like example, like Pure Cloud, it's very easy. We're completely integrated. It populates right within Pure Cloud. The audio comes in, the metadata all comes in, and it's instantaneously deployment. We have customers who say, listen, I may be on Genesis, I may be on Pure Connect, oh, but my recordings are in Verint or some other cloud platform. Well, we can certainly grab that, but there may be an integration required. If they have those requirements, we can do that, so it may push that time frame out. It's really a matter of, what is the customer's environment? How do we get the audio in? How automated do they want that to be, right? And so the actual deployment and getting up and running where you can use the system, it's instantaneous. It's really a matter of just integration on the front end and deciding integration on the back end. But it's really pretty simple. So I hope that answered that question.
Excellent. Thank you, Brett. Okay, Mark, I'll turn it back over to you to complete the webinar.
Yeah. Well, and a couple other questions for you, Brett. I know
Sure.
the answer, it's kind of obvious, but I think customers are probably thinking this, so I'll ask it. If I've already got a well-defined QA process internally, aren't I accomplishing the same thing, or can I accomplish the same thing as what you're providing with Call Journey?
Well, here's the thing, absolutely. And now, when you say if they already have a defined process, that is a big start, and that's perfect. The question is, what is it costing you? What we're seeing is, what is it costing you to do that? Meaning, are you employing a lot of highly skilled people, or even to actually go back and manually listen to those calls? So you have the process in place of maybe what you're looking for. And what we're finding is that by running the calls through Call Journey first, is now, for example, let's say that you have a QA analyst or people who are going to listen to maybe 50 calls a week or 50 calls a month. Okay, right. How do you know what 50 calls to listen to? Right now, they're just spot checking going, this one. And they're manually doing that. What our customers are doing now, they're running the calls through Call Journey, and they're saying, hey, these calls here either fell outside of our parameters or they're flagged for some reason. So now I'm going to go back and know exactly what 50 calls to listen to. So I'm getting either much more value out of the time I'm paying for those people who listen to calls, or B, I can now reduce the number of people actually doing that process because Call Journey is automating that, and now I can get the same coverage with the less expense. So those are two areas I think that we're seeing. The fact, okay. Mark, does that make sense? So I think that would be probably the most obvious answer. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm also thinking, as you said, you could go across all the calls. So can this potentially replace that process, or do you still see people augmenting that with their own scorecards, for example?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. What we see most commonly is that this augments, because I think they still want to have that human element is to say, hey, I need to understand these things here. Right, but that footprint can really be reduced. Now, there's no reason why they couldn't completely automate that process and you just kick up any things to deal with. But so we see it most commonly, it augments that and reduces the footprint or the effort. But really, honestly, the real answer is people are saying, listen, today I'm in a regulatory compliant industry. I'm listening less than 1% of my calls. I've got a huge risk here. How do I solve this? And so now we're saying, now we just process 100% of your calls. And they go, right. Thank you very much. Right. Very small cost to deliver that. But the risk savings is enormous, not even counting the actual reduction if they want in employee costs. Sure.
Makes sense. As you talk about the risk piece of it, I was thinking of, some industries, as you stated, Brett, some industries require certain disclosures to be verbally provided. Like in the accounts recovery space, for example, a mini Miranda, it could be whatever it is. And I know a lot of customers are anxious that a standard QA process isn't going to necessarily find that? Because again, you're only doing, say, 2 to 5% of the calls. What about the other 95% of the calls that people are monitoring?
Oh, I mean, 100%. Like I said, I think I mentioned a couple of times, the number one use case of why people are reaching out to us and calling us is for that very reason. They realize, and especially depending on their industry, the risks they're taking, right? And they go, we need to find a solution, but we can't afford to go hire all these other people to listen to these calls. To outsource it to a call monitoring and QA service is way too expensive. Wow. So now we can come in and solve that. So you're absolutely right. If you have, and there's a lot of, banking industries, and financial services who receive millions and billions of dollars of fines over the years, right, for not following those protocols. And so this is a way to help them manage that risk. Absolutely.
Okay. Awesome. You mentioned that there's apps that sort of plug in. I saw Agent Performance, Call Drivers, Customer Experience. Are there other ones that you're building out? Like, are they like packaged?
We do.
Brett? Okay.
Yeah, we do. And so really, and how that works is we obviously have one for, compliance is another one. Right now, compliance is a component of the agent performance, but a lot of our customers have a separate one. They just build an app, or we do it for them that says compliance. It's only just that. That's a critical one. So compliance is certainly there. And really, we have those out of the box that we deliver. It normally happens, Mark. We'll sit down with a customer. We'll do a discovery, understand what they're trying to accomplish with the conversation analytics, and then we'll provide those apps for them. And then they can either go in and we'll work with them to change and customize it, and or build completely new apps. So it's really simple to go in and actually build a brand new application specifically for them. And one of the things that we're also seeing is that inside an organization, they may have different call center groups, different business units, and they all need different requirements. So I didn't show that in the demo, but it goes from the company level to organization level to folder level. So for example, what that means is, hey, if I have the mortgage company, I have my new sales, they have these compliance requirements. My refi people have these requirements. So they can actually set up 3 different instances of different applications customized to those specific needs. So we can really get granular to allow the customer to only really process what they care about.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah. Well, and I think we talked a little bit about it, Brett, but for any of the folks that are on the call that are interested, best way to get started, reach out to their AVDS sales representative, and then we can get them going very quickly. I heard you say, a lot of customers, they're up and running within a day. That's got to be an incredible return on investment because of how quickly we can get it deployed.
Yeah, absolutely. And seeing the value there. And like I said, it's, reach out to you guys. We're always available to do a discovery call and a demo and help. Really, our goal is to help customers understand how it might benefit them. If it makes business sense, then it's pretty easy to move forward.
Sounds awesome. Great. Thank you, Brett. Really appreciate your time. Lana, is there any other questions pop up while we were discussing?
Nope. I think we've got it all.
Well, fantastic. Okay. On behalf of Automated Voice and Data Solutions and also Call Journey, we appreciate those folks that jumped on this webinar. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to AVDS. We're happy to arrange a one-on-one meeting with ourselves and Brad to dive into it further. So thanks everybody again for all their time today.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.